Well, hello there, and welcome to the guitar program, which this week brings us up to lesson number 3 in your booklets. Now, we're going to go over the single-line melodies that I hope you've been practicing during the week. And this week, we're going to learn how to play chords, and we're going to learn how to read from chord symbols. And by the end of the lesson, you'll be actually accompanying a melody with chords yourselves. So we've got quite a lot to cover, but nothing, I think, that's really too difficult in this particular lesson. So, first of all, let's get ourselves well in tune so that we can play some of those duets that we started last week. And we'll start, as usual, with the 6th string. You'll find that you may find it distracting at first, but if I play a bit of a chord along with the note that you're tuning, it's actually a little bit easier to hear whether it's in tune or not. Now we come to the A string, 5th string, now the 4th string, the D, third string, the G, that's the one you're tuning, and then the 2nd string, the B, and finally the 1st string, your top E. Right, let's deal with a couple of questions that have come up. I suppose far the commonest one is the one about sore left hands at this point, because you're going through a slightly difficult time in your beginning process. A normal amount of slight wear on the left hand is perfectly in order at this point, but it mustn't be excessive. And if you really seem to have very sore left-hand fingers, there are 2 things you must check. The first is the action of your guitar. You remember last time I told you about the height that the strings should be above the fingerboard, and I said that a dime should just be able to be put in at the 1st fret, and I said that you might just get 3 pennies in at the 12th fret. But you can even go a little lower than that 3-penny height if you want. Certainly don't go above it anyway. So that's point number 1. Point number 2 is if you're actually pressing too hard. Now, what you want to do is you want to press the minimum amount necessary to get a clear note. What so often happens at this stage is you're not at a good place in the fret. You're perhaps back of the fret, like that. And you play the note and you get a nasty buzzy sound like that. And the instinctive reaction is to clench up and put tremendous force on there to clean up the note. But the way to clean it up, in fact, is to use the finger right up by the fret and not to press harder than you need to. And I think if you keep that in mind, that coupled with a certain natural build-up of callus that will happen over the next week or 2 will, I think, take care of that problem. Now, some of you have asked whether you can play left-handed. And of course, it is possible simply to turn the guitar around the other way, and then you have to string it the other way up so that the metal wound strings come here and the thinnest strings the other end. But the catch I found about left-handed playing is it seems to create some problems when you get to a teacher. And in fact, some teachers actually resist left-handed players for this reason. It makes it hard for the teacher to see exactly what you're doing when he's thinking backwards like that. So if you're reasonably ambidextrous and really could go either way, I would suggest that you string the guitar and tune it as we have it here. The final point is the question of nail clicks. Now, there's a good deal of normal clicking and slight peripheral noises that are going to come up at this point anyway. You're struggling, and so is everybody else at this stage. However, there are some specific things, and one of them relates to your rest stroke. If you start the rest stroke too far down the pad of the finger, then you're going to have a slight tendency to click when you first come into contact with the nail. I have such a habit of doing it the right way that I find it hard to make that click. But it's something that happens from just starting the stroke a little too far down the finger. The secret is, when you prepare your rest stroke, get the finger right up by the nail, so that when you make the stroke, you're not then sliding over the tip of the finger and hitting the nail and then making the note, but in one movement you simply travel across, engage with the nail, and let go. And I think if you think of the placement as being really very important in terms of your rest stroke, I think you'll be able to clean up some of the peripheral sounds. Other little sounds that may happen are just fingers getting in the wrong place at the wrong time. Just don't worry too much about it at the moment. As you develop more precision and train your muscles, a lot of that will just naturally clean up. Now, I'd like us to try an exercise. It's actually a development of what we did last week. So let's take a look at our first tablature example here. And what we're in fact going to do is go up the 4 frets as we did in the exercise you've been practicing, but we're going to come back as well. And there's one important thing here is, as you do the upward movement, leave the fingers on, and they'll be there ready for when you come back again. All right, let's read this together now. And you remember that the numbers on the tablature simply show you the number of the frets, and that those are the 6 strings, with the top line representing the highest string on your guitar. All right, so we're on the 3rd string, 1st fret. Get ready to go, and I'll give you a count of 4. Let's do it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now back we come, and up to the next string. And up to the 1st string. Right, now that's an exercise for you, and I want you just to do that as a repetitive thing, working up the speed as you go along. I now want to extend it also with one to cover all 6 strings. So let's look at our next example. And here we're going to go all the way up the guitar, going up in 4s up each string, and then we're going to come all the way down again. And let's do it together, and then I want to leave this with you as something to practice during the week. All ready? Just a count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Up to the 5th string, the 4th string, climbing all the way up the guitar, 2nd string, and then we start down again. A little harder coming down, isn't it? Back to where you started. Now what's fun with this one is, having done all that, slide up a fret and do it again. All the way. And slide up. Get the idea? And you can in fact do it all the way up the fingerboard and all the way back again. And by the time you've done that, you'll be pretty good at it. Now let's play a duet, as we did last week. And this is also probably a familiar tune to you. Let's read it once together in unison, and then I'll play some accompaniment. And the first thing I want you to look at is just before the measure line, you'll see there's an O symbol there, showing that we have an incomplete measure. We're going to start on the last of the 3 beats which make up each of these measures. So the way we do that is I count 2 and you come in on 3, like this. I'll just show you once. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we're off in our threes. All right, let's do it together now. Are you ready? Count of 2 and you come in on 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2 open strings, easy. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, down to the 3rd string. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, and let it ring on. 3. All right, now there's just one point here. You came over onto the 4th string, and normally the 4th string would be played with the thumb, but this is a rule that is very often broken, and for simplicity now, I think let's just stay with the rest strokes. But remember, as a general rule, thumb for the bottom 3, fingers for the top 3 strings. Now let's do it together, and I'm going to play some accompaniment this time. Are you ready? Remember the count of 2, and you come in on 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Well done. Now I want to try one more little tune in the same way. See if you recognize it also. That was basically an English folk song called The Ash Grove, although it was slightly simplified for our purpose. Now, let's turn to our next one and see if you recognize the tune of this one. Straight in together on this one, and again, the pickup, we do a count of 2 and you come in on 3. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 3. Right? Let's try it with a little harmony now. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. Now we come to the important new technique part of this lesson, which is how to play a chord. And many of you will think that the easiest way to play a chord is simply to strum across with your thumb or something like that. And in fact, you do use that sort of thing in accompaniment. But in solo playing, more often we want to select the specific notes of the chord with the thumb and the fingers. Remember, a chord is actually any 2 notes sounded together. So to pick out the exact notes we want, a strum would not work because you couldn't jump to leave out certain strings or select other ones. All right, the way we do it is we place the fingers in advance on the strings, selecting the particular strings we want, and then we squeeze the thumb towards the fingers to execute the chord. So just like the rest stroke, we've got two distinct movements: a placement, which finds the hand in its position and selects the strings, and then an execution where the thumb squeezes towards the fingers and the fingers towards the thumb to make the chord. Now I'd like you to try this just on open strings. We'll just worry about the right hand for the moment. Put the thumb on the bottom string and put the I finger on the third string, M on the second, and A on the top string, just as I have it. Now, feel the strings up against the nail with your fingers. With the thumb, you'll be on the pad of the thumb on the side of it, not quite up against the nail. All right, now if you've got that, let's try to play the chord now. We're going to squeeze thumb towards the fingers and fingers back towards the thumb, just like this. Try it. Now, fingers back on the strings, squeeze, and you've got it. Now, try for a single sound as far as you can. I don't want you to get a sort of snaggly sound, which you probably will at first anyway, until you practice it a little bit. But fingers on, and then with the squeeze movement, a single sound. Now let's take a look at a simple way that chords can be written. This is something you'll encounter mainly when you're accompanying songs. It's a shorthand method again, and let's take a look at the C chord. Now, the spots you see and lines represent, in fact, the last segment of the guitar, with the top line being equivalent to the nut of the guitar. So that chord that you're looking at means that a finger has to go on here on the second string at the first fret, and on the fourth string, and on the fifth string. And you see that that shape of my fingers corresponds to the shape of those spots. Now, which finger you use is indicated by the numbers at the top there. And that X that you see against the sixth string means don't play that one, because the chord is only, in fact, a five-string chord here. So let's try right away to get that chord by putting the fingers on one by one. First string, put it on now, on the second string. First finger on the second string at the first fret. A lot of firsts and seconds here. And now, second finger on the fourth string at the second fret. And finally, put your third finger on the fifth string. You got it? And it should look like the shape of those spots. Now, with the right hand, we're going to do exactly what we did before, except that we're going to put the thumb on the fifth string, because we discovered that we're not going to use the sixth string with this particular chord. Thumb on the fifth string, and the fingers on the 1, 2, 3 strings, placed firmly, and squeeze to sound the chord. And if you got it right, that's what it should sound like. Try it again. Thumb on the fifth, fingers on the 1, 2, and 3, and squeeze to make the chord. It's a nice, simple system, really, I think. And the main thing is that it works. Now, let's look at the G7th chord. The term seventh isn't one that's relevant to us now, except to tell you that it relates it to the C chord. The G7th leads to the C chord in a logical sequence like this. And that relationship, your ear will tell you better than a lot of explanations, really. Now let's try and find the notes for this G7th chord. First of all, let's put the first finger on the top string at the first fret, And then let's reach right across, and on the 5th string, we'll find the 2nd fret, and on the bottom string, 6th string, we'll find the 3rd fret. And there we have the G7th chord. If you strum right across, that's what you hear. But what we're going to do now is we're going to choose the strings just as we did right at the beginning. We're going to put the thumb on the 6th string and the fingers again on the top 3 strings. Are you ready? Now let's play it. Just squeeze and sound the chord. Let's try it again. As far as possible, go for a single sound. Right. Now, as a way to practice this, I'm going to do a little experiment here with my cassette recorder. I'm going to give you a melody, in fact, one that we just practiced a little earlier on. And you're going to see indications for the C chord at places along the melody. And at that point, I'm going to want you to play the chords. So let's take a look at the exercise and see how we're going to do this. Now, on the top line of the melody there, you can see the various C and G7th indications. For the moment, don't worry about the G7th. Let's just take the Cs. And what happens is, as we progress through the melody, whenever you see a C, I want you to hit a C chord. Now, watch the music, and I'll do it once so that you get the idea, and then the next time we'll do it together. All right, let's, here we go. 1, 2. Got the idea? All right, now it's your turn. So first of all, find the C chord, get the left-hand fingers on. Got them? All right, now the right hand, thumb on the 5th string, fingers on 3rd, 2nd, and 1st. Are you ready? All right, let's do it. 1, 2. Now, if you were going to do the full accompaniment, of course, you'd want more than the one chord. And you'll see the G7s there for you to try during the week. Next week, we'll pick it up there, and we'll see if we can do both chords together. But for now, let's have one more try and see if we can get perfect C chords all at the right spots. Find the chord again. Got it with both hands? Are you ready? All right, concert performance this time. Let's do it. 1, 2. The tune, for those of you who recognize it, is, of course, The Streets of Laredo, or something slightly simplified from it for our purpose. Now, this week, I want you to practice changing from the C to the G7th chord many times. And next week, we'll get back to this, and we'll do it with the change. Also, if you want to, practice some of the other chords you'll find in the booklet. But the C and G7th are the ones I really want. Now, let's do a piece, this time by Scarlatti, and the title is Allegro.